This season on Kerr Fatou.
Who is engaging them too?
No.
Fatou.
I am not at liberty to say yes or no.
Oli.
When we touch down, better broke down.
With Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
Can't do small or big projects with the same dedication and commitment as we do. With a reputation as the leading printing company in the country, when it comes to major projects and innovative solutions, we always deliver in high quality, thus receiving the trust and confidence of our clients. From the moment your order is placed to when it is delivered, we believe in exceeding expectations from the sales manager to the production team, the account manager, and the person delivering your material. We have state-of-the-art equipment and a highly experienced and competent workforce that enables us to deliver top quality work on time. At reasonable prices, we provide our clients with multiple solutions right from conceptualizing, designing, printing, binding, publishing, and distribution. For all your printing requirements, we are strategically located at the Sankumsila Highway, the Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation. We print what you desire.
Every young Gambian dreams of a university degree. He wants a good paying job after graduation, a pretty wife, and ultimately own a dream home.
What if I can't afford my desired dream home?
And that is why you need to visit Universal Properties.
We specialize in customer satisfaction. We listen to every of our clients' needs when we show the properties to our clients. Before you know it, you hear the client saying,
I like this house.
This is the room that cuts my heart.
And most of the time, they cling to the door, never to let go. Most clients want to close the deal right there. And that is why we always have their contracts in the trunk of our cars. We work at our client's pace. No haggle, no hassle.
We're waiting for you at our office in Caraba Avenue here in the Gambia.
Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
Sampa. Dena. Did.
daf ma yónni woon ma joué ko bii. waaw yàlla def mu gagné jàppoon. $100,000 la la.
laa ilaha illallah.
te yow xam nga ne sama papa dafa amee cardiaque.
yow da ngaa dof yow xam nga luy $100,000.
xam naa ko kay man naa lu ñëw bëggoon nga dimbali ci.
demal na nga def damaa toog rek sama xel mi ne ci yow xam nga bërki démb li daal si benn waay fee. waaw ma romb ko rek. bërki démb. waaw muy yuuxu di tëb. ma ni kii lu ko dal ñu ne ma daal ci loto gaming Gambie bi la laal.
jar na ko
laal na ci lu di.
waaw nga dafa am quarté am kente am tiercé waaw maanaam nag tey jii. waaw kente bi la. te jackpot bee passé. xaalis
kente mooy lan.
kente maanaam mooy juróomi fas yi.
waaw beneen bi.
am na quarté. mooy ñeenti fas yi. ak tiercé. tey nag xaalis bi daa gën a yokk.
lu tax
ndax jackpot bële dañ kaa tegaat ci bii. maanaam juróomi fas yi boo ko jàppee ci ordre mooy risque nga. désordre bi sax day fay. bu ma ko jàppoon
yooyu moom noonu la demee da ngay dem rek jouer.
am na lu ma yaakaar
man gis naa seen kii yi kees yu ndaw yi ci biir dëkk bi. mais daal dama ne lii moom amul xaalis da nga ciy def sa xaalis.
day jël wecce rek sànni ko fa xool jëmbat la. laa ilaha illallah. yow li nga wax ni tey ji bu yàlla dogaloon ma gañe ko lu mu gàtt.
fi mu toll nii boo gañe woon $100,000.
waaw nu may def.
waaw nooy def.
xam nga yow sama xarit nga.
waaw
damay fexe nga rey say noonu.
ci nan.
lu mu gàtt $50,000.
waay.
Thierno. woowee ambulance.
lan la lu xew nii.
sa baay gay dee na.
sama papa gay lu ko rey.
$100,000 dalaa ne ko boo ma gañaloon si li ma la yónni dama ko koy jox mu daanu ni sama kaw.
man waxuma ko mu waxee woon la ko noonu yow la ko waroon informé ndax yow yaa ko gañe. yaa gañe jàppoon.
fay lempo warugal la si képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga ak ñu fi dëkk bu fekkee ne ci at mi sa koom-koom weesu na $2,400 mbete weer bu nekk di nga am lu tollu si $2,000 lempo si la nguur gi di sukkandiku ngir liggéey yokkute réew mi GRA mooy banxaas bu nguuri Gambia sas ngir mu fayeku lépp luy lempo ci biir réew mi ba tax na GRA di yëgal faykati lempo yi ne warugal la pour ñu fay lu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment maanaam bépp contract bu waay joxe te si biir réew mi la ñu toog kon xaalis si contract bi ngeen nangotoo war nga cee wàññi ci xayma téeméer bu nekk fukka bu fekkee ne contracto bi dëkkut ci biir réew mi bu boobaa di nga war a wàññi téeméer bu nekk fukka ak juróom lii mooy lempo bu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment lii mooy lempo bi nga xam ne yow mi joxe contract warugal la nga wëlbatiku dem fay ko ci maakaani GRA tax office bu la gën a jege mbete ci banque yi GRA jagleel pour fay lempo war ngaa jéebal lempo bi si diiri fukki fan ak juróom gannaaw bi nga wàññee ci xaalis si contract bi amul benn contracto bu ñu teggil fay lempo bi xanaa mu fekk ne nguuri Gambia ñoo ko jéegale boole si projet yi nga xam ne mbootaay ndimbali ñoo koy dépense GRA di fayeku lempo ngir yokkute réew mi.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Kerr Fatou. Today, Thursday, December 10th, is Human Rights Day. And with me on the panel, I have Emmauel Joof, he's the chairman of the Human Rights Commission, and Mr. Madi, of course, my favorite activist in the Gambia. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fatou.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
So, Mr. Joof, Human Rights Day celebrated across the world, and Gambia, of course, is also going to is celebrating the day. Like, let's know, how did you celebrate the day today? December 10th?
Well, perhaps maybe just give it a little bit of context. As you know, the 10th of December is celebrated worldwide as Human Rights Day in honor of the Universal Declaration. It was in 1948, 10th of December, that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was actually was adopted by the General Assembly. And it has become the precursor of all human rights treaties, conventions, and even constitutions. If you look at, for example, our Chapter 4, most of the provisions there are taken from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So when it was adopted in 1948, and then in 1950, the United Nations passed a declaration saying that it is a day that states all over the world and institutions a day that they should celebrate. And this is how it came. So to institutions like National Human Rights Commission, this is our birthday. Yeah. It is our birthday because for the first time after the First World War, the principles of human rights became something that was universal, applicable to everybody. And every year, as I said, it's celebrated, and it's usually celebrated with a theme. There is a theme always. This year, the theme is Recover Better, stand up for human rights. In recognition of where we have been in this year, COVID-19, recover better. But how do we recover? Human rights has to be at the forefront of our recovery program. So this is the day itself. All over the world, it will be celebrated. Traditional dancing, as I said, using the theme. The National Human Rights Commission is going to have what we call the final mood competition of the Sadauda Keraba mood competition. It was unveiled in November, and the Human Rights Day will be the day of the finals, where we have set up this mood in collaboration with the University of the Gambia. Mood competitions are now very popular all over, at all universities. We came up with a scenario that is very much, the theme involves the issues that Gambia is facing currently: freedom of association, discrimination, caste-based system, freedom of religion, issues surrounding that, and you will have students arguing these issues before an imaginary African Court of Human Rights. But we're doing this to showcase the strides that Sadauda really, despite all the issues that the Gambia had, was a champion for human rights. And his contributions has been monumental. That is why today, even the African Charter on Human and People's Rights is named after, the second name is the Banjul Charter. And we also have the African Commission, which is based in the Gambia. So we are hoping that by celebrating it in that way, we will, as the Wolof will say, feñal, put the status of Sadauda where it should be. But not only that, but also inspire university students, especially, to think about human rights and perhaps start gearing them towards human rights work as they go through the legal profession.
Thank you very much. So Madi, as a human rights defender in the Gambia, can you give us your assessment of the human rights situation in this country?
Okay, thank you. Pretty interesting question. I don't know how one would put that. You know, human rights, from my observation, myself, my experience, and what I know in the Gambia and around the world, it's a daily battle to achieve, to protect, to keep, so that it is not, you achieve once and that's it. So even countries that we usually would call to be democratic or to be respecting, human rights, you'll still have violations take place there. So certainly some nations, the rate of violations is very high, and in others it will be low. And, so that if you come to the Gambia, from where we kicked off, I mean, he mentioned Sadauda, despite all the issues, he was indeed a champion of human rights. He wasn't a belligerent and provocative person who would clamp down on individuals. But we saw what transformed in the past 22 years under Jammeh, where the state, which has an obligation to protect our rights, did not only fail to protect it, but even went further to seek to damage it, you know. And so coming out of that to the present moment, of course, the expectation would be we would have a government, I mean, that would protect, expand, you know, human rights. And so the state of rights at this moment, one can look at it from 2 points of view. I mean, or areas on the side of the government and on the side of the people. So that when I look at it, I see Gambians seriously seeking to protect their rights. And here, when we say rights, it's not just rights as freedom of assembly, as he mentioned, civil and political rights, freedom of expression, freedom of the media, because everybody is trying to speak, to talk, to hold programs like this, you know, to protect it. But also rights that are about our living conditions, our, you know, state of living. So whether it's education or health or electricity. So you can see how many Gambians have, you know, speaking to those issues, protesting about those issues. I mean, demanding, calling out on, you know, government at central and local level to make sure that they enjoy those social, economic, you know, benefits that they should have as their rights. So at the level of the government, I've seen a tendency to keep hands off. That is to, you know, not necessarily to clamp down on rights, to seize rights, even though a number of those instances have happened. I mean, including myself, the, you know, government clamped down on me for merely expressing my opinion, which they did to many other citizens, far lesser though than it previously used to be. But to a large extent, government has, you know, kept hands off, that individual citizens continue to enjoy their rights. If there's any drawback of our state of rights, it has to do with legal reforms, institutional reforms. The fact that until now, in our laws, we still have laws that, for me, limit our rights, you know, whether it's the Public Order Act or the Information Communications Act or the Newspaper Act, you know, some are not even there. The Disability Bill hasn't still been passed. So for me, not much progress has been made to change laws and make sure they are protective of rights, they are expansive of rights, one, but two, also to make the necessary institutional reforms, not just the security sector, but even the civil service. So that to make sure our health service delivery institutions are efficient, are effective. Our local government institutions are effective. I mean, refuse collection, for example. I mean, these are all rights of citizens to make sure our communities, our streets are clean. This is my right to my environment, I mean, and so on. So until we make those institutional reforms to bring efficiency, effectiveness, responsiveness in the way institutions are run, it will still be a drawback on the rights of citizens, because if I don't have electricity, it's a violation of my right. If a Gambian mother dies in a Gambian hospital giving birth to a Gambian, that's a violation of her right. I mean, if a Gambian child goes to school, poorly kept school, I mean, poor resources and all of that, that's a violation of our rights. So, which means as Gambians, we need to have a very holistic view of rights, that we don't only look at it as about journalists, about political opponents, about, you know, speech and assembly, you know. But let us recognize that every Gambian citizen has a right to have, I mean, that standard of living that is dignified. And if that is lacking, then that's a violation of our rights, you know, particularly when you consider that we are a republic in which we pay tax. We elect representatives to manage those taxes for us. So we have a right to electricity. We have a right to good roads, you know, proper roads. We have a right to all of those things. And if those things are not available, it will create poverty, inequality, it will create discrimination. And then, you know, beyond and above that, also to talk about cultural issues, you know, rights of women, rights of persons with disability, rights of citizens, regardless of what culture or ethnic group or religion you believe, but to be what you want to be and not to be subjected to what is called the caste system. You know, I mean, Emmauel mentioned the caste system. Yeah. I mean, the foundation of our republic is based on the sovereign equality of citizens. That's in our constitution, that all Gambians, I mean, the sovereignty of the Gambia resides in the people. So all Gambians are equal, regardless. And so the caste system is inimical to the republican values, you know, and people have to have that political conception of what are we as, when you say the Gambia. Yes, we may belong to different groups, religion or, I mean, faiths and tribes and, you know, gender and everything. But we are, first and foremost, a republic. That means we are all equal. So which means government also has to look at that aspect to see how do we create an equal society. You know, even when we have to be proud, you know, uphold our cultures, but those cultures have to align with republican values, with, you know, democratic human rights standards. But we cannot have in our society some people considered slaves and some people considered nobles, and because of that it determines your access to power, to resources, your to participation in your own society at this in this day and age.
Emmauel, so from the Commission's point of view, how would you assess the situation in the country? He has spoken about the caste system. I know you guys, you know.
Well, I just came from the URR.
Yeah.
The communities in Diabugu, Garawol, Koina, and Bajakunda with our task force. Perhaps I should start by saying that I agree with Madi, it's work in progress. Human rights will always be work in progress for many reasons. Have we made progress? Yes. In the area of civil and political rights, definitely. I'm not trying to curry favor with the government, but you just look at the revelations at the TRRC, ongoing TRRC, to know that enforced disappearances, I'm not saying it's perfect, extrajudicial killings, torture, these were the order of the day. You know, we could have been here, by the time we leave here, we would have been arrested by the NIA. So we have made progress. But of course, as Madi rightly said, human rights involve not only civil and political, but also economic, social, and cultural rights. All the rights are important. And as a National Human Rights Commission, we look at all the rights, and these are all the rights that we're promoting. So apart from, we have done a lot of investigation into human rights violation, but also issues like the caste system. We have been monitoring. Discrimination is at the forefront. Because you see, the thing is, if you look at the drivers of conflict in every society, the causes of conflict, it's actually economic, social, and cultural rights, in most cases, that causes this problem. Even when you listen to military coup d'etats, what do they say? We have been deprived of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it is very important that any government is mindful of the economic, social, and cultural rights of its citizens. It is the duty of the state to protect, to fulfill, and respect the rights of people. And it includes all these rights. Have we made progress? Yes. Much needs to be done. For example, there is an area that is of great concern to the National Human Rights Commission, issues relating to land, land disputes. Because we believe that if it is not sorted out, it's a powder keg that could actually explode. Issues relating to pollution. We have done studies, we have done our monitoring to towns like Gunjur, Sanyang, and what is the other one? We went to Katong, where you have fish meal factories, where there is pollution. These are issues that are human rights, and the government needs to be serious about it. And we have taken on, you see, our mandate is very broad. The National Human Rights Commission mandate is very broad. Although the likes of Madi will want us maybe to always concentrate on one particular area, because we receive individual complaints, but we can only do as much as we have the capacity to. But our role also involves investigating, monitoring, and advising the government, you know, raising the red flag. And we do that actually often. It even happened during the period of COVID-19. And I was very happy that there are things that we told the government, and that they needed to do. We had all these emergency regulations. And we've realized that 2 months down the line, a month after, they'd actually, what would I say, take heed of our advice and moved on. So just to tell you that human rights is work in progress. We've come a long way, but it's not perfect. And I don't expect it to be perfect, but we have civil society who will always tell the government that this is what are your expectations. We have the National Human Rights Commission, which is not civil society, which is not government, but has been entrusted to have advisory role to the government also, and to make sure that recommendations, to monitor the recommendations that are made to the government to be followed.
So I was going to come there. The work of the commission.
Yes.
I know you have done a series of investigations.
Yes.
There were cases that, were really high-profile cases. Yes. There so many of us were involved, and the commission took a stand and did investigations, and recommendations were made to the government. How many times have you made recommendations to government and they accept their recommendations?
Yeah, we made different kinds of recommendations. Mm-hmm. There are general recommendations that are made based on our investigation and observation. There are recommendations that we make based on individual complaints that we have. For example, we had made recommendation when Madi was called for questioning, and the matter was before us. We have the powers of a high court judge when we sit, and yes, we do. Yeah. We can request witnesses to appear before us. We can subpoena. We can inspect documents. Now, coming back to your recommendations, I would say that so far, all the recommendations that we have made that required immediate, because in our rules of procedures, there are recommendations that we give the government 30 days to either implement them or come back to tell us, because we have enforcement mechanisms. So far, those ones, there are some that are very long term, like the prisons, where we tell them, you need to do ABC, this is one. But for these ones that we talk about, the government has actually, so far, they had honored all the recommendations that we've made.
Is it because the recommendations are very, very doable? For example, I know a lot of us did raise concerns. One of your latest investigations, that was the Gorgimbo case. A lot of people were kind of concerned about the recommendations that came out of the investigation. For one, somebody who was violated, somebody who was humiliated, and the way he was treated, and for the government to say just pay a certain amount of for the panel to say pay him a certain amount of money, and the recommendations a lot of us saw as very, very not very, I don't know what to say.
They didn't think it was harsh enough.
Yes.
The issue of Gorgimbo had a context.
Yes.
In fact, when the issue came up, of course, it was on social media. People complained, and the IGP set up a panel, and they wanted us to be part of the panel with the Gambia Bar Association. When we look at the composition of the panel, we told them we won't be part of that panel. We, on our own volition, we were all anyway investigating the matter. They wrote back to us and said, okay, we agree. You can go with, but can we be part of this broader panel? And we thought that when we're talking about reform of the police service, we thought that it was good to have a broader panel involving the Gambia Bar Association, which is an independent institution. And as these are lawyers who go to court day in, day out, we also felt, yes, this panel, if it has Tango, it's, has very independent people. And then the Minister of Interior, because it oversees the police, and also from the police, the crime management. So, and then a TOR was drawn up, which was to look into, one, the issue surrounding the Ibrahim Hassani case, the alleged assault, who assaulted Ibrahim, if he was assaulted, and then come up with recommendations relating to the particular case, and also recommendation relating to what we find out during because we went to anti-crime, we inspected the books, among other things. So it had a specific terms of reference. And remember, this was a panel. So we interviewed 17 witnesses, including the doctor that inspected, the doctor who treated Ibrahima himself and his colleagues. And if you look at the recommendation, it was very long. One of the things that was recommended was disciplinary action against Gorgimbu.
Yeah.
You know, the police have their own disciplinary procedure. But also what we said that apart from the disciplinary procedure, he could have been sacked by the IGP. We are not part of the police disciplinary body.
Yeah.
But we said that having found him that he was the one who actually assaulted this man, he cannot be the head of an anti-crime. Redeploy. If you're sacking him, sack him, but remove him out.
Yeah.
So we looked at many other factors, and even compensation, although the doctor told us these were not lasting injuries. It was actually, it healed quickly.
Yeah.
It was swollen, there was trauma, but we still felt, this has never happened, that we were going to give monetary compensation because he has suffered pain and injury. So there were a lot of considerations that were made, and if you look, it's actually a 30-page report. What we did was we took out the salient points, but you see, the thing is, Gorgimbu already had a bad name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people even mentioned he is the person who was found wanting, well, at least his testimony, he admitted to certain things April 10 and 11. Remember, we had a specific TOR.
Yeah.
The TRRC will deal with Gorgimbu at the end.
Yeah.
Ours was a specific TOR to look at this particular case, including the way people are kept at anti-crime.
Yeah.
And we made, I told you, it's a 30-page report.
Yeah.
And the IGP wrote back within the period that was given to him. It was not only NHRC who decided, these members of the bar, that, listen, thank you. We are going to honor each of these recommendations, the immediate ones, the medium-term ones, and the long-term. We did actually, because even the way they kept their records was not correct. Even the way they do arrests. And we have since then even done training with them to make sure that all these things are documented. Well, yeah, but when you make these decisions in a panel,
yeah,
not everybody will be happy. You know, you heard the other day, I heard some people are saying it's because of Mr. Joof's chairing this panel that the crime rate has gone up in the Greater Banjul. You must have heard it. I don't know whether you have heard it.
No.
And people attacked even Sankare for saying that.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, even those that criticize us are saying, we stand by the decision of the NHRC.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, they have told him to be redeployed, and he's redeployed. And, you know, so, okay. As a National Human Rights Commission, we will listen to public opinion.
Yeah.
But we cannot always be driven by public opinion. We have a mandate. Our mandate, we can even mediate. Our mandate is so broad.
Yeah.
We need to bring back a culture of rule of law in this country. And there are many ways and mechanisms in which we will employ to make it. We will get criticism, we know. But for the IGP to have that panel, we call them, be part of this panel, where Gorgimbu came and was grilled for hours. And we came up with a recommendation and said, no, you assaulted somebody. Yes, it may not have been grievous bodily harm, but this was an assault on becoming of a chief of an anti-crime, and you don't deserve to be the chief of anti-crime. And that was made. But we will always come with, people will criticize.
Yeah.
And I think we have to also accept some of those criticism. Some, it's because they don't have the context of everything that went. Well, as I told you, this was a 30-page report on all the issues that we found out, among other things. But again, it's work in progress. Would this have ever happened before? No. It would not have been.
No, it would not.
We had unfettered access. We don't even tell them when we're getting to anti-crime. We go in there. We do our investigation. And we've been doing this. A week ago, we inspected custodies right across the country, detention centers, the prisons in Joshua, Mile 2. We just came from that. And then this week we went to the Sarahule communities. So this will not happen overnight. The change, bringing a culture. Remember, we had a police force. Not only that, we just had a code of conduct with them that we validated. Because during the process also, we discovered that if you have a police force that is given so much powers to investigate, prosecute, protect life and liberty, we do need an efficient and effective police force, but they must follow due process. Sometimes some of these things they were wanting in this area. And even a code of conduct was historical. For the first time, the police command agreed. We facilitated the process where They said, yes, our police force need a code of conduct. It's work in progress. I am happy with where we are going. It's not perfect, but we're getting there.
Well, I mean, it's work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
And we certainly don't doubt their intentions and, you know, and the vision where they want to take us. I agree, we have to have a culture of rule of law, you know, in this country. But also, I mean, that would imply a culture of accountability as well. And so, on that particular case, you know, I don't agree with the panel. And I have concerns, really. And one has to do with transparency. You know, and for me, the National Human Rights Commission is one of the great achievements we've made in this change. And as the first body, I mean, for the first time setting up such a body, it really, you know, has to set a very high bar, really. And, you know, so it's good they are taking these approaches and putting it, you know, to the government there. That, these are the things, and you know, and it's good government is hearing them. But the transparency part of it, like until now, the citizens don't have this 30-page report. You know, I checked their website. You know,
can I come there quickly? It has been uploaded actually over 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Yes, Commissioner Dramage, I just showed it. It's in the. You go to the website that we have. You go under publication and reports. It's into part 1 and part 2. You just click the whole 30. I'm not even just talking about the press release. In fact, other people like Nyang Jai even called me. I said, go to the web page. It has been uploaded. It is uploaded, and it is there. All the verbatim, how the report, all the 30 is there.
Yeah. So that is good. That is because ultimately
it took us at least a week after the press release to put it there. I must admit, and I think immediately a week after, during that period, people were asking, but it is uploaded. If you immediately you leave, if you click our website, you go to report. I'm telling you, there is part 1. Part 2 of the report.
Yeah, because I think those things are very important. Public office is to serve the public. It's not for an individual, you know, interest. Citizens pay tax. And a public officer, whether it's a law, enforcement security officer or a civil servant, you must abide by the rule of law. And, you know, we cannot condone corruption. We cannot condone torture. We cannot condone misinformation coming from public office, because that is the very basis for the destruction of our rights. So for me, a public officer committing such a heinous crime as Gorgui Mboup did to this Ibrahim Sane.
Even the IGP's office, the statement they issued when this thing just initially happened, that was a false statement coming from the office of the IGP.
So for me, the recommendations, I don't know whether it's a matter of harsh or not being harsh, but I feel they got to be appropriate. And so since there is a clear case of torture, you know, assault by none other than, the chief of a whole police unit, I don't see any justification why that person should remain in the service of the Gambia government again. You know, so the police said the recommendation is the police IGP would take disciplinary action. I don't know whether that also, the police have not said what disciplinary action they have taken so far. And so for me, I just saw abuse taking place and the perpetrator rewarded.
He's just been moved.
By that redeployment to more or less the same status in another part of the country. You know, so those are concerns.
The deputy somewhere.
You know, but those are concerns we have, and which speaks to the whole idea of reform. And it's good they are having this code of conduct. You know, I visited anti-crime unit, like other security institutions, police stations, and not even for the inmates, the suspects that would be put there, but even for the officers working there, those places are not fit for human habitation. And these are all issues of rights. You know, go to Joshua prisons, Mile 2 prisons, quarters of the prison wardens. You know, go to Serakunda police station or Bundum police station, look at the state of the building, you know. So all of these are issues that, for me, I think our hope should be on the Human Rights Commission, that we have an independent body like that. And I'm looking forward to what happens 1 year, 2 years after the Human Rights Commission's existence, because this is the only opportunity we have. You know, maybe not the only, but you know, one of the greatest opportunities we have to really bring that culture of rule of law in this country, which is what we don't have.
But then one thing I also observe with the commission is that most of the time they are negotiating cases. For example, the cases of the journalists that were arrested. These people, their rights were abused. They were kept. Their radios, their businesses were locked down. What happened was a negotiation. Government will do these things, and then they come around running to the Human Rights Commission to help negotiate and get out of it.
In my case too.
And in your case too. And no one is prosecuted. And at the end of the day, they do it over and over again because the commission is there to negotiate. At a certain point, they're going to get used to that.
I don't see it that way. As I tell you that the National Human Rights Commission, we have a very broad mandate. I've mentioned it.
Yes.
Mediation can be part of it. And through mediation, you can solve a lot of issues. We do constitute a panel. Do you see, and assume the powers of High Court to enforce whatever recommendations that we make. In the case of Madi, for example, it got to a point where he was arrested. We as a National Human Rights Commission were also interested. Here is an activist. Madi is known by many people. And then when the issue came up, the first port of call is to find out from the IGP, the office, what is this issue? This is where we were. Madi was not charged.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that
they wasted his time.
Well,
going back and
Madi also
eventually charged.
He could have even sued them. You see, there's nothing stopping also Madi from suing them. But our job as a National Human Rights Commission is to find out the facts to start with. You know, we are not an activist organization. We must also get to the bottom of the facts. So straight away, Madi actually did file. But during that process that we engaged the office of the IGP, during that period, they had actually dropped whatever charges. Were you even formally charged? You were formally charged, but it was dropped as you went. So I'm saying that you want us to pounce on the government. There will be
not directly pounds, but once you find out there's a wrongdoing, at least recommend some. For example, in the case of Gorgui Mboup and Ibrahim Asane, at least recommend prosecution or even get him fired. If you recommend that, government will say, oh yes, this is serious, but it's something that the commissioner found he's doing very wrong.
In the case of the radio stations that you're talking about, again, when it was King FM and Membekere, again, straight away, you know, we have our own team of investigations. We don't rely on the Minister of Justice. We have trained lawyers. We have trained investigators. Some we even stole from the police. Well, we poached them, and they're working for us. And the National Human Rights Commission relies on, it's an institution that has to, we have our own rules of procedures. This is another thing people don't understand. We have, and I brought it for you. It's a process. Everybody will want us to do things the way they think it should be done. But we have our own rules of procedures that we just didn't make, but it's based on the Paris principles and the best practices of other human rights commissions like Ghana, who have been there since 1993. So we have a process we set in motion when we hear that there is something, before we even get to the stage of setting up a panel. So in the case of Madi, as the process went through, the IGP, we spoke to Madi at first. We even called, Madi was the first person we called with his team in Tango. I still remember he was spitting fire at the time. And as usual, this is Madi. And then not only that, after listening to Madi, we spoke to the office of the IGP. Remember, we also have an advisory position. If you look at, we advise the government to change laws, to change their ways. If you look at our mandate, it says this. You have to advise even the government. If they don't, you can set other processes in motion. This is what people don't understand. It's our mandate when the government, we had a closed door meeting with Barrow one time. None of the press was allowed because it's also our mandate to do that. And there are instances where we will set up a panel. In this case, the matter was resolved. But there was also nothing stopping Madi from suing if he felt that unlawful imprisonment, he could have sued. The case of that member, we summoned the Minister of Justice and Ibrahim Asila. And I must say again, this is for the first time they came and answered. And not only that, we had the GPU to be there and to allow each, and this is also our job, let them beat their chest. We removed the journalists and said these are the issues. And they were there. They all, of course, showed bravado. This is the nation of negotiation. And we told them what we think and what the next steps are if ABC is not done. It was finished. They came out and said, what did the minister say? Well, we don't agree. We still believe that they had done ABC, but we will say that the radio stations will open right now. Didn't we achieve something? We did. Again, there was nothing stopping them pursuing the government for loss of earnings. I'm just trying to tell you that it doesn't automatically say that just because we've decided this, it stopped there. If you feel that your rights have still been agreed, you still have avenues. So, but I think people should learn to understand that we have different mechanisms. If you look at our mandate, Section 12 is broad. It's very broad. But the ultimate aim is to have an amicable solution, not just to compromise. The ultimate aim is to put sense to the violator. In fact, our act is not only talking about the government, even public enterprises. It's broad. So, but then if issues are not solved, we go to the next step. That was why I was telling you so far, we can say that our recommendations have been honored. And just recently, you saw us going to having a meeting with the Chief Justice. We are preparing, this is actually, it's a long-term preparation because we know that in the long run, there may be instances where maybe the government may not want to abide by the recommendations. Yet the law gives us powers to enforce our recommendation. But if you're going to enforce recommendations, you must have the judiciary. You must have the judiciary on board because we don't have a sheriff division. Do you know what I'm saying? If we're going to enforce the decision. So this was, the National Human Rights Commission is even new to the judiciary because this is the first time. So we're even planning next year a big seminar conference where we also bring in other commissioners from National Human Rights Commission to tell them how they've been able to work together with the judiciary. Ours is work in progress. There is a lot of demand on us. It's natural because of where we're coming from. And we have our rights, which we have been deprived of this right for many years. Economic, social, cultural, but we are here to make sure that every Gambian, this is, let justice guide our action. This is our motto. And we're here to make sure that his rights, my rights, will need to be protected so that we'll have a better Gambia, so that we'll not have what we had here before.
Yes. So the role of the civil society, though, is also huge in this. Because just like you said when you were opening, how many of us know that even having, because, you know, I had this on my show and I was arguing with Oli when she was saying, oh, the people of Kiang should be grateful to the government because they have power now. And I said, but that is their right. So, but how many of us know all of these things that, yes, I should have electricity, just like you were saying, my streets should be clean, the government, all of this, climate, everything, you know. What is the civil society also doing? We come from a very dark time, 22 years, people were disappearing, people were killed, people were tortured. For us, that is what is human rights all about, disappearances, killing and all this. But for us to know that all of these things also, so many people know, but there are a lot of more people who don't know about all of this. Right. The role of the civil society in helping educating the masses.
Sure, he would also say that one of the mandates is to educate people about human rights, which should be it's a mandate of the civil society also to do civic education and of the government itself. In fact, they have a whole civic education agency. So, that is basic. That ultimately we have to raise the civic awareness of citizens to know their rights, and which includes how to protect those rights, how to defend those rights. He talked about to sue, not just me or the journalist or anyone else, to sue the whoever we think is a perpetrator. so those options or information, education, awareness has to be created. And I think our civil society is doing that. I mean, civil society is very diverse, and they're into a lot of activities. As we speak right now, you'll be surprised that there's a civil society organization with some women, all the way in worldly doing some sensitization about one form of right or the other. So those things are happening. To what extent have we achieved, or like how many percentage of our population are really aware of their rights? Those are all issues we'll be grappling with, but not just the ordinary citizens, but even police officers, people in the public service. Do they know the rights of citizens, including, which means their obligation as public officers to protect the rights of citizens? So that the code of conduct he mentioned, that should be good for the police to know who you can arrest or how you can arrest, and so on. Because if you don't have that idea, as a police officer, you may think to arrest me, you had got to give me a slap first. To detain me, you can put me in a cell and go to have your attire over there, and so on. So it is not just merely citizens to know their rights, but for public officers also to know their obligations and to know the rights of the citizens, so that when you do your work as a teacher in Boraba Primary School, that I'm a teacher, it's my obligation to teach, because that is to fulfill the right to education of these children. You see, so it makes life very easy. But in our society, this is also the big thing, because we also have other traditions, culture and religion. So that sometimes when you enter into civic education, human rights education particularly, you will always have these conflicts. When you talk about child rights, people will bring in another narrative that you want to make our children disrespectful of adults. If you talk about women's rights, people bring in another narrative that, our culture or religion does not say this. So just showing the, complexity and the challenges we face. But these things are basic. I think everyone should be a human rights educator. I mean, everyone should be an activist, including as a human rights commissioner.
I just want to add to, he's made a very important point. You cannot talk about human rights if you have not raised the awareness of everybody. Everybody. And this needs to be done. You see, the thing is, again, everything has a context. We have had these CSOs, but the space that was given to them was very close. There are certain things they would not talk about. For obvious reasons, they will be arrested. So human rights was given a narrative by the then president as something that was just Eurocentric and related to, relegated it to LGBT rights. And unfortunately, a lot of people believe these things. But as he said, human rights is much broader. We talk about economic, social, and cultural rights. And we've discovered, especially after our report last year to the National Assembly Standing Committee on Human Rights, we discovered that we have a lot of work to do because we had a backlash of rights. Human rights, we're talking about right to education. But even as I speak to you, issues of culture. Why did we go to URR? There are issues of discrimination where people believe that it's their culture. They mix religion in it, that, as you said, slaves, nobles, people should know their rightful place in society. So there is much work to be done. And people as government officers, you are very right. Why are we doing all this capacity building with the police? If you have been giving such much power, and I said this to the IGP, to whom much is given, much is expected. So your police officers must even know how to conduct themselves. That's why we need a code of conduct. And the duty bearers, the right holders must also even know that they have responsibilities. You have, you claim your right, but also you have responsibility. Yesterday I was talking to a group of students. I told them the right to education. But do you know that if the government pays for you, or your father and mother, don't you have the duty to study and bring the good grades? I just try to make it as basic as possible. But I agree with you. Awareness is key, because people must understand and own human rights. And this is how now we start our awareness. We even leave civil and political rights. We talk about issues like right to health, right to education. People can relate to it. And we tell them that has nothing to do with Eurocentric. You deserve, Kiang deserve electricity. Thank God they have it now. But you know, and much more.
Yeah.
We deserve to have a clean environment.
Boraba does not.
Boraba, yes. I passed by Boraba the other day. You know.
We'll sue the government.
So, you know, environmental issues, clean environment. These are issues that we need to talk about. These are issues that people should claim.
Yeah.
It's a pity though. Maybe I shouldn't open a can of worms. But the draft that was rejected was very progressive under the fundamental rights and freedom.
Yeah.
That actually you can litigate and take the government to court on some economic and social rights. You know, and I wish that we'll be able to capture that and bring it back. Because human rights, as he rightly said, are not only civil and political. They are important, but they also deals with our education, our health, our environment. These are issues that the National Human Rights Commission will champion. We have a lot of work to do, Madi. Yeah. So we'll have to see how to divide this work.
Yeah, we don't doubt that the Human Rights Commission has a lot of work to do, and the background, you know, not just in terms of what kind of governments we've had, but socio-culturally what kind of society we are. It tells you the difficulty, because we can forget about government altogether, and we go to our homes, to our communities, between parents, between neighbors, as women, the caste thing, you know, violations taking place in our homes, sexual violence, for example, you know, and so on. That, you know, has nothing to do with the government. It's you and me committing violence against each other in our homes. And, you know, I can't address it because, you know, it is expected that, yes, you are, as a woman, you should take this. You know, as a man, you can do this, or belonging to that caste, or, you know, and so on. So it's a huge thing that we need to do. And if you have a National Human Rights Commission, as you said, with a broad mandate, education and so on, it's important. But then, you know, he said they are not an activist. Okay, we can take that, you know. But like, coming to your point, we also would have to call on the Human Rights Commission to just also be aware of these issues we are raising. That ultimately, we don't want to have another national institution, you know, which is so fundamental as a National Human Rights Commission, to address these things, and not to say that all right violations should stop at once, but again, not to see one after the other, journalists harass here, some individuals harass there, some political opponents denied this or that, or, you know, basic rights are not given to people, like you mentioned, pollution, land. So we want to see change, and sometimes we're not saying all of a sudden we cleanse the environment, there's no violations, but we want to see a trend, a pattern that tells us the impact is being felt. So the recommendations you send, short term, medium term, long term, so that we see within the police. They don't have a code of conduct. We hope, you know, as we go 12 months, you know, 2 years after that code of conduct, people notice a difference in the way police, attitude in police. And if that doesn't happen, we want to see, you know, the commission going a step further to tighten the knots that, look, you are not being effectively implementing our recommendations, you know. And so, so for me, I have a lot of hope that we have a National Human Rights Commission, and particularly starting with the individuals that are there right now. And as I said, who need to set a very high bar, you know, standard, and make it, maybe they are not to bite, they are not activists.
No, we will bite sometimes. We have to bite.
But to make, you know, it very clear to government that, you know, that at the end of the day, government takes heed. Oh, Human Rights Commission is there. Journalists were arrested, the radio prison closed. They were never compensated. I saw they invited the Minister of Justice at the time and the Minister of Information. They had a press conference and made some. The
GP was there.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm just talking about the government people made some high-sounding slogans. Yeah. I mean, eventually they let it open, but I mean, you know, maybe GPU suddenly should take this matter to court. But I guess the message has been sent from the commission to the government very clearly that you cannot arbitrarily close.
Yes,
absolutely. The media houses just like that. And so, yeah.
You
so
can't.
maybe impact was felt there. But, I mean, going forward, look at, after that, what, happened, the 3 years judgment thing, for example, as well.
Yeah.
Freedom of assembly, which is still a big issue in this country. The IG does not respect the right to freedom of assembly, because if you want to stage an assembly here, he will either deny you or wait until 48 hours, 24 hours, give you a permit, then give you a space of 1 hour, 2 hours to go and assemble, or send you to the back, a short distance, or put you in the bush. Where then, so technically they are stifling rights. And these are all issues we would want to bring on the table, that Gambians have to enjoy their full rights.
Yeah.
Just to add in quickly, within our mandate, we even develop advisory. We do research. For example, as you rightly said, issues relating to sexual harassment at the workplace.
Yeah.
We have done research, and these are things that we publish. And we are following it up with the government to make it not only a policy, but law. So we are doing all these things. We now just developed, with the police, guidelines on policing public assemblies. And these are all publications that are coming. These are research that we have done through the IGP. You may fault him, but he's backing his whatever he's doing with a very old law, that, where he has the right to grant or refuse permits. We are trying to move away. There has been an amendment which has not been passed. It's notice. What we do is we notify you. And this is what is now partaking in other countries. Notification, so that they can also be ready in the event of trouble. Because when you have, so we're moving towards the direction. We understand the law has not changed, but we're telling him, IGP, we have the regional treaties, which have recommendations on policing assemblies in a democratic society. This is something that you should adopt. And he's open to it. I'm just saying that our work, we are always working, trying to bring changes in the system.
Finally, before we go, they're signaling me. You're talking about something very important. The laws have not changed. Madi also spoke about it here. We still have all the bad laws, the media laws. When this president came, the first thing he said was, I will not treat the media the way they were treated before. And one time, we had him say, we still have the same laws. We know that a lot of our colleagues were jailed, some were detained because of those laws, some were disappeared because of those laws. And the Public Order Act is still here. All these laws are still here. And up to now, 3 years into this government, if we had followed the transition, 4 years, the transition would have been ending this December. So what are we doing to push for these reforms, to get these laws changed? Because if they are not changed, they are the law. You go to court, you will still go to jail. So,
well, when you look at it, some legal reform is taking place. Because every now and again, when Parliament sits, you hear bills to do this. Just that a lot of the time, those laws are not laws we are mentioning here, like the Public Order Act, but also is the lawmaking process. One of the issues I have with the Ministry of Justice and the National Assembly is the fact that laws are for the citizens, for the people. The Ministry of Justice and the National Assembly cannot sit on their own and then change laws that are about how I live in this society. It is important that you involve citizens in the lawmaking process. So, but what you see is sometimes you'll see a bill drafted at the Ministry of Justice, say about media, and even the journalists are not involved. Just this week or last week, I had the Minister of Information say he's going to the National Assembly to put before them the Information and Communication Act to change some of those provisions relating to the media. And I contacted GPU to say, but do you know what are those? The minister is changing, and they don't know. So, the Minister of Information cannot sit on his own to say, look, I'm going to change this law relating to the media, engage the media, because that Information and Communications Act has many issues that affect the media. There are many issues. It's not just to take them out, but also to bring them in there.
Yeah.
So we need to know what that means, bearing in mind that that Information and Communications Act is not for the minister. It's for the Gambian people. You know, if you want to change the criminal code last year, you heard they wanted to change the criminal code, only to put certain provisions there. But the consultation in terms of, you know, who you was very limited. You know, it was just a bunch of lawyers, you know, who sat there, and they, of course, involved, I think, the Human Rights Commission. But largely...
You were there as well.
Yeah, I was there, you know, in a very strange way. You know, I mean, I was more or less an intruder there. You know, not necessarily invited. You know, but yeah, because I got it from a privileged information, so I
even the electoral laws that they're trying to...
So that process has to be enhanced. When, from the ministry, when you want to draft a bill, draft the bill, put it on your website, give it to people, because the idea that the argument we gazette it. Look, gazette is not like a newspaper that you go and just see on the street and buy. I mean, some Gambians have lived here 50 years, they've never seen a gazette, a publication. You know, that is not an ordinary paper, that's a legal document, more or less. So it is not enough to say we've gazetted it. But, you know, why can't you put the bill, make it accessible to Gambians and give them chance to get their views? You know, particularly those stakeholders who are, you know, in that area seriously.
I agree with you to an extent. There has to be consultation. You can't have any bill without the stakeholders being part of the process. But another thing that I've also discovered with Gambia, you can have a bill, you send it to people for comment on it. Gambians are also very interesting, and they don't. I even discovered that with the National Human Rights Commission. When we have some people ask us for the report, they say a lot of things. You give it to them, it dies, then they don't even read it. So we also, and civil society should perhaps spearhead this. We need to be involved. You can blame the government on one thing, but it's also a Gambian thing of just, you know, not getting involved. And we need to be involved. If these are laws that will affect the way we run our lives, we need to be part of it. And I'm just saying this based on personal experience. When you want to engage people and you discover that they're not interested, they're more interested in the noise when it's enacted. And but you tell them, but we called you 2-3 weeks, you didn't say anything. So these are the two things. The government, there has to be participation. They must encourage public participation, because then we all own it. Ownership is everywhere. But Gambians also, civil society including, national, we should be part and ready to be part of the process.
We should be ready. You know, that reminds me, I mean, I've been to Nigeria many times, but, you know, working with the civil society there, I mean, the first time I heard of this public hearing was in Nigeria. The National Assembly there, the Senate, in making laws, they would take have a session at the National Assembly, which they call a public hearing, to get the members of the public to respond to that bill, you know, before they even discuss it. So at least you are getting some input. So that has to happen. But certainly, I agree with him. I mean, which is all the more reason we need to do these things to change the culture. All right. You know, I'm glad he said the Golden Book investigation report is on their website. Right. I mean, you know, but you go to government websites to try to get reports. They are not there. And that is a problem. So the response, therefore, will be very slow, because people are not used to getting these reports to be involved. You know, I mean, in fact, one can even say it's better today. I mean, the Minister of Justice did at least involve 1 or 2 stakeholders, but previously, I mean, no bill comes out. I was in the civil society. I mean, I'm still there, but I mean, the NGO Act. You know, that was an NGO decree 81. They wanted to make it into an act. We were in the board, Tango was in the board of the NGO board, NGO Affairs Agency board. And through that, we managed to get the bill. We organized a review of the bill and sent it to the NGO Affairs Agency in 2010. And we never got a response, only to remove Tango altogether from the NGO Affairs Agency board. The next moment we see Laws of the Gambia published, volume 1 to 16, and in there we saw NGO Act. And we cannot remember ever any bill put before the National Assembly for NGO bill. So no involvement.
But it has changed. For example, even the selection process of commissioners. Do you know, the civil society had to actually shortlist 9 names to send to Parliament. So that is also, at least they could object and say, no, this person cannot be a commissioner. So I'm just saying, it has improved, but more needs to be done, and we need to
take ownership.
We need to take ownership and be involved. But there is a lot of work in this country. Issues relating to discrimination, SGBV, sexual gender-based violence, discrimination, where people see themselves. You look at communities that I just mentioned, in Garawal, in Diabugu, where you have people who are nobles and others who are seen as lesser nobles. And of course, it impacts on their fundamental rights and freedom because, as he said, access to power, even access to health. You have areas in, I understand, Kerewan, where even the graveyards are divided.
Separated,
We discovered in URR, I saw these bands. You know, in Banjul area, you find them written, Munyagen, Yalabah, those guys. I thought it was just Sarahulinim. Apparently, it even has whether you're a Foro. So it was only bands that the non-nobles
will enter.
Yes. Wow. I was asking and the police laughed and said, they will wait. If you are not a noble, you can't even get into this band. Or if you are, so even the non-nobles, the Gamana, have their own vehicles. But is that what we want in a society which we say is a society of religion? No. This, but that's what I tell you, there is a lot of work to do. And the National Human Rights Commission there is spearheading a task force. The task force involves all the stakeholders because, in fact, when we started, we felt that the political will was not there. We thought it was a hot potato for many reasons. But, we are not politicians. So we led the task force, but we involved the Minister of Justice, Minister of Interior, Local Government and Lands, Tango, Supreme Islamic Council, because some of them base a lot of these things on religion. So we are in it together. Myself and Madi, we may not agree, but it's our country and we need to work together. We need to disagree and then we need to agree for the betterment. Our job is to promote a culture of human rights in this country.
Absolutely.
And we will do it.
Finally, your final message.
It's International Human Rights Day, and Emmauel gave a good background as to how this day came about. But you said also your rights means you have responsibilities. So what I would say really, that human rights is everything. That's what I tell people. I mean, human rights is everything, really, about your life. And so when we talk about human rights, we're talking about our development. We're talking about our peace and security. We're talking about, our health and, everything. And so I want every Gambian on this day, if you have not been involved in human rights work, or if you're not concerned about human rights, if you've seen human rights as a Western thing, or if you see human rights as anti that or this religion, anti-culture, no. Human rights helps you to better practice your religion. Human rights helps you to make your culture even better. Human rights makes you a better father, a better mother, a better friend, and all of that. Because it means I respect you, you will respect me. So I want all Gambians to perceive human rights, to take human rights in that way, and become an activist, for human rights. Sometimes I get a bit uncomfortable when people say Madi is an activist. I'm like, but every citizen should be an activist. An activist is not a, like you are an action man of something. It's just having a passion to do something.
Maybe he's a firebrand.
So every citizen should be an activist for human rights. Human rights in the home, in the community, in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces. We make sure the right of yourself and your colleagues' rights, your friends' rights, your mother's rights, your son's rights, or daughter's rights are all protected. That's all about it. And if you do that, I'm sure all of this poverty and inequality and discrimination would go out. Because anywhere we see poverty, we see discrimination, is a violation of one's right. And your right, when it is respected, your dignity stands out. you become a better human being. Yeah, opportunities all over the place. Yeah. So that's all the fight is about. Yeah. And in that regard, on this day, International Human Rights Day, I welcome all Gambians, honestly, to follow Dr. Emmauel Joof. He's an inspiration to us, to me, because he's been there for long. So much as we would, and that is our duty to hold the National Human Rights Commission to account. But we are hugely inspired that he is the one there heading it. The task is huge. I mean, he cannot do this, even for another 50 years. I mean, and as we said, human rights is work in progress, a daily battle. Every day you get up, protect rights, you go to bed with it, tomorrow you get up. Because if you don't protect it, they get violated. So you don't win necessarily like a war. It's a battle. You get up with it to the end of the day, go back to bed, tomorrow get up with it for the rest of your life. That's all about it.
Just to add to what he's saying, I will not say what it was about, but up to midnight, I was sending a text yesterday to the IGP on some issues that bothered me. It had not come out, but just to tell him that you sit and said, no, I will not even wait for tomorrow. Please, can we, I'm just saying that that is the nature of the job. And of course, some comes out, some doesn't come out. But this is I just want to tell you that this is the nature of the job.
Finally, for the people, for the hundreds, for the thousands of Gambians who have so much hope and faith in this commission, especially in your leadership, what's your message to these Gambians who, I know so many of us have concerns also, but a lot of people, majority of people have hope in the commission, especially your leadership?
I think we're in it together. Despite the fact that I have said that a lot of people, we get criticism, but it's normal. Criticism also makes you better. And you also explain better. Sometimes it's because they don't have the full facts and they don't know. But we are in it together. The National Human Rights Commission cannot do it on its own. That is why we have actually helped to facilitate what we call the NGO forum. We have to work closely. The Madis and the others, they know, they have more information than we do. And we depend on them. So please, keep on giving us information. We listen to your advice. We may not always take it for many other reasons, but we are in it together because this is our country. We had the baptism of fire, if I could use that word, for 22 years. Do we want to go back to it? No. We have living examples of what happened to us at the TRRC. Sometimes we used to sit and Gambians, we can't do that. Gambian be naked. It can happen and it has happened to us. So let us make sure that never again. Never again. We are the ones who are going to carry the mantle of never again. All these commissions are winding up. It's the National Human Rights Commission that is going to stay to monitor even the recommendations of the TRRC to make sure that our economic, social, cultural rights and civil and political rights are respected and fulfilled. We need your support. All of us. Let's be in together.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joof. Thank you very much, Madi. It's been a very fruitful conversation. And to you all watching, happy Human Rights Day. Good night to you all. Bye-bye.
Have you run out of cash power? Do you want to transfer funds to your family? Or do you want salary advance without coming to the bank? Your banking services have just been brought to you on your mobile phone. Download and install from your App Store or Google Play Trust Bank's mobile app. Simply search for TBL mobile app and follow the instructions. You can access the following services: funds transfer, cash power purchase, forex rates enquiries, mobile airtime top-up, mini statement, balance enquiry. TBL app is the only app that allows you to take salary advance and many more. You can also interact with your customers using our USSD code by dialing *533#. At Trust Bank, we bring innovation that is useful to you, our valued customer. With our mobile app and USSD, banking is at your fingertips. Trust Bank Limited, proudly Gambian.
waaye déedéet waay ay warul la naaj waaye xam naa ne bu paree rek ma kontaan.
sama secret mooy ami tamaate jeeg balaa jonge day mun waañam ami tamaate soo ko defee si sa tooga da koy xonkal cuur jeeg bu koy jëfandikoo sa jëkkër du la musa mere.
nijaay
waaw
baala ma tey dama naa gis añ bi.
ay séeri ko xiif naa de.
waaye léegi ma pare topp suma nii maa ngi dem yegg kaay. waaw topp suma gannaaw.
loolu de laa bëgg a dégg.
Faro Company mi ñu indil bébé Mariam moo ñu indil Ami Tamaate.
sa benn cin xonq na.
Ami Tamaate de moo si jaar.
Ami Tamaate.
waaw Ami Tamaate.
moo ko xonqal nii. cam. bis ni ki tey. dee naa la Ami Tamaate.
doomi ndey Ami Tamaate bi nag léegi ku ko bëgg nag nooy def nag mu koy am bépp marché boo dugga bitik supermarket table yi bépp foo dugga si biir réew mi di nga am Ami Tamaate.